Yeah! Ow! What the fuck am I doing? I'm slow dancing and burning brooms, and I'm dancing on the tops of buildings too, and it all comes down to the fact that I can't dance to save my life, but I've never encountered a tango intended for more than two, and somehow there's no benefit to bowing out now, so I intend to keep dancing around in stiletto heels when I'm not jumping over mixed emotions and rational thoughts in Nike running shoes, hoping that I don't get tripped up or intertwined in something initially intended to ease my mind and allow me time to guiltlessly think honestly. So, I tried my hand at it all. I spent Tuesdays mindlessly bouncing basketballs, but the sound of leather as it collided with wood broke my heart even more than I anticipated it would, because it resounds like the beat of a booming heart locked up behind the lonely prison of a rib cage. And I guess when you ask why a caged bird still sings, it's the same thing. It sings because it has to. Because its cadence is its beautiful rescue, and because even if my heart stopped beating, that would not have undone the dependence it had placed on you and the sight of a purple hair tie looped 4 times around your wrist. And I know that our unconventionality demanded work, and results aren't always immediately forthcoming, and like a tan takes time to perfect and muscle mass is slow acquiring. If anything, we're used to waiting, but at the same time, we have both resorted to cheating at least some of the time, because tanning moisturizers prolong golden packaging, and protein and supplements exaggerate everything, so it's only natural that I'm searching for a way to innocently pass the time and trick my mind around the distance and my heart around the fact that my once in a lifetime left without first making sure that I'd be fine. So, I picked up hobbies you'd frowned upon, like going out for drinks and getting a real job, and I even picked up the guitar since 9 months later, you still refuse to play for me. But in case you were wondering, I always knew I was a princess even before you proved that this wasn't the fairy tale you initially tried to sell to me. So I had a love affair with John Mayer, who showed me the beauty of watching guitar strings dance with fingertips, or strum skillfully with guitar picks, and I let hands transition keys up guitar necks and then to all the places I knew they should not be. But it was the appeal of a different song that had me strung along, and I was swept away by robust undertones and courageous riffs, and I will gladly admit that I was enthralled with grace notes that kiss the air, and it's not fair to spend nights comparing me to Gibson or to compare every lonely moment at 4 a.m. to carefully placed G notes, but in the end, his hand still fits perfectly in the small of my back, reassuring me that perfect fingering comes down to framing me in the best possible light, which just might happen to stream in between the curtains at 4 p.m. while curled up in a bed, cradled by perfect staccato laughter, building up to a slow crescendo of whatever may come after. And I'll be the first to admit that it is hard to draw lines sometimes, so after crossing one, I drew 3 more, and I stared F, A, C, and E straight in the eye and bid goodbye as I climbed over every line, because if every good boy really does do fine, I want to know how a girl like me will fare. Not that I care much of consequence, because admitting wrong would mean observing lines drawn, and I am only okay with that if it's in the sand that a rising tide is threatening the permanence of. And so, clearly, a capo is the answer to everything, for it allows for seamless key changes while holding back everything, and he's bending chords and I'm bending over backwards, and it's this undeniable force between us. And right now, a double bar signifying the end is not an option, so double dots signify repetition, and that's exactly the way I want this composition to read, because for right now, he's the reason this caged bird still sings.